Well, welcome back. This is Julie Beranek, founder of the Seven Figure Builder Show. And I am here with my friend today, Laura Wright. Hey, Laura.
Hello.
I am so excited to chat with you. We hit it off from, I think, the first moment that we connected through mutual friend. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. You are the founder of Epic at Sales, author of No Woman Down. You've accomplished amazing things, but tell us a bit about, what you do with your business and who you serve.
Ooh, I love this question because it gives me that moment where I'm like, elevator pitch, or do I say what I do? So I might just say what I do. So my business is helping women entrepreneurs feel epic at sales. And epic means E is enjoyable, P is profitable, I is intelligent. I was going to say that. That's not what I is. I is intentional. And C is in a conscious community. So, what I really want is for those really brilliant minded, smart gals who are like, I should be able to do this. I can do this. I want those women to see how to sell with ease and scale their business with simplicity. And that's my favorite thing, is to activate people into seeing that it's easy, they can sell, they can make money, and they can actually do the service they want to do in this world. So that's what I do with my clients.
I love that. And I know from our first conversation, one of the biggest things that came up was relationship, right?
Mhm.
So, how does that tie in, and what is your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, so I believe in what I'm going to call relationship-based sales. And why I think I'm so successful with what I do and how I teach my clients is only because of the relationships that I build. So, like, I love that you said it. It's true. We were connected to somebody and we hit it off and we chit chatted. And it was both conscious and strategic on both of our parts, but also, I like you.
Why, thank you. I like you too.
I think you're interesting. I would like to talk to you. But what I also know how to do is I'm listening to hear who you serve, what assets you need, how can I serve you? And I think you're doing the same for me. And so I think what happens is a lot of women, especially, they don't know how to build relationships that then turn into business. And that's what I really love to show how to do, because I don't need to sell to you and you become my client. I also don't need to have a quid pro quo moment of, okay, Julie, I'm going to talk to you 6 times and I expect you to send me 14
It's our
deals.
sixth date. Come on.
You have to buy. But what I do like to know is, wait a minute, if I think you have a great service and I really like you and I'm a connector and I talk to a lot of people, how could it naturally work to refer you? I just make sure I have enough people around me, enough relationships that I can point the right person. I used to do this thing at live events when I would teach this, where I would have like 4 people stand up in the room. And I'm like, here's how referrals actually go. I'm going to send someone to Tina. Tina's going to send someone to Jane. Jane's going to send 4 people to Angela. Angela's going to send one person to Julie. And then Julie's going to send 6 people to me. And what ends up happening is everybody gets what they need. It's not I build a relationship with Julie and Julie has to send me clients and I have to send Julie clients. It may be that we never work together, but I connect you with Angela, who opens up a doorway that creates something else. And I think it's a missing key, because what happens is women are great at building relationships, but not the second side, which is strategic sales and seeing opportunities when it comes to those relationships.
Yeah, I love that. And as you know, that's everything I'm about as well, is the relationship-based lead generation. So we were like, that aha moment. But what do you recommend for people that, we'll say, struggle with this? Like, they don't want to come across as disingenuous, right? None of us do. And I know when we've talked, it's like, well, what is that strategic overlap where we can help each other? But what do you recommend for people so that it's authentic, genuine, and yet you're building strategic relationships?
Yep. Okay. So feel like, oh, I can teach this because I know all the pieces. So first things first, you need to know who your ideal client is, like you know, like you know, like you know. You need to understand who is your ideal referral partner, like you know, like you know, like you know. You need to understand like what opportunities work for you. Example, I'm legitimately here on a podcast because podcasts are my number one way of engaging with my ideal audience. And so I do that. And why I say you need to know ideal client, ideal referral partner, and the way that you like to, engage is so that when you're out in the world, online or offline, and you're building relationships, I can look and see Julie, and Julie hits all the red lights. Bing, 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 bing. She is all things. And so I'm going to say hello to her. Now, if I was meeting Tim, and this isn't like a man or woman thing, but let's just say Tim was in my field. Tim doesn't align to my ideal client. Tim is not a referral partner for me, and Tim does not match my audience or things that I need or have those opportunities. Well, I'm not going to go reach out to Tim. So I think first thing is how you find the people you connect with. The second thing is I use my 5 steps to yes that I sell with actually as a conversation piece for how I do relationship building, because what it does is it allows me to connect. It allows me to find out what a person is struggling with. I can either solve it or help them find the solve. I find out what their vision is, what they want to create. I can either help them create it or help them find the person. But it also gives me a point where I have an invitation and a close. And the invitation and close is either direct come by from me, or it is, oh, Julie, you have a podcast. Could I please be on that? Or, oh, Julie, I think I know Tina who needs to, actually, side note, this is legitimately happening. I do have a person I need to refer to you who wants to go get on a bunch of podcasts, and I know you can help her. But
Perfect.
that naturally happens in conversations because I'm listening and I'm developing and building. I think the other piece is this: long term for me is everything. It's very, I like to say that I would rather know 10 people deeply and connect with them many times throughout the year versus 10,000 people that I only get a chance to talk with once. So having diversified relationships, you know how we hear diversified portfolio or diversified marketing. I think you should have a diversified amount of relationships inside of your network. And I would much rather, again, I'd like to talk to Julie a couple times a year and keep in connection with her versus meet her once and try to get something out of it. That's transactional. That's not relationship.
Yeah, and people sense that energy from a mile away. Like they
That's
know
true.
they can feel your intentions of if you're out for a quick hit, like just buy my stuff and then toss people away. And it's funny because that's not that, but the relationship piece that you mentioned is again how we connected was a close friend of mine and a close friend of yours was talking and was like, "Hey, you two need to meet." And so brought us together through just a referral introduction, which is my favorite of for those that are looking for referrals, I always ask like, hey, just a 3-way email intro, a 3-way message, I find is best. So then it's a natural, we can pick it up from there versus send them my calendar link and they can book because people bounce. Like they just won't. It's too big of a step.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that 1000%. Also, I have to say, I just realized this when I always talk about like knowing connections, what you all can't see is as I am looking at Julie with her money tree behind her on the desk, my money tree is in the corner. So it makes her money tree look even larger. But why I bring this to the table, like we're both wearing blue today.
Right.
This is that I straightened my hair instead of
Unintentionally.
having my hair curly today, but we could have shown up with curly hair. But when I pay attention to this, it all clicks into place. And I think that's the other part about relationship building is being able to see commonality and connection and letting that lead versus the force and the push.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And how does the active listening was, what you had mentioned of just building that relationship, how could that eventually lead into sales? I know you said sales is such an important part of our business, right? Like we wouldn't have a business without it, but what does that relationship look like?
Everything. Okay, so I'm trying to say it like 12 times. So in my 5 steps to yes, the sales process, the first one is called list. It's connection, and then second one is listen and learn. What I'm always listening for is what is the person across from the table with me either want more of, want less of, is struggling with, doesn't have, all those things that are friction of what they don't have. And then on the second side is I'm listening to their vision, what they do want, what they desire. And so what happens is my little connection radar pops up and says, oh, I know somebody you should talk to. And I think this is the second side of why relationship is better than transaction. So transactional is I'm listening to Julie and I have to find like a referral of a client to her. Relationship based is where I can say, Julie, There's actually a sponsorship opportunity. Oh, side note, this is actually legitimate. It's happening again. This is where my brain goes. It's because I just do this so naturally, and maybe you guys can hear it from it. Is I have a new to me connection that is hosting an event that will have 300 women in the room that I think are your ideal clients, and she's selling sponsorships.
Nice.
And so a relationship based connection, I can say, Julie, I see something that is in your best interest, and I'm going to put you towards it. I, Laura, do not make any money on this. However, I just did something that will support Julie. And what I know will happen is either through Julie's hands or because Givers Gain really does work, I will receive an opportunity of equal that I put out. So I think listening lets me hear, like, I wouldn't tell Julie to go to this event if I didn't know about her and know the fact that she
Right.
could get on the train and be there because it's very close to where she is. I wouldn't know that her ideal clients are there because I wouldn't know about her. So that's where, when you listen for opportunity, both with the person you're directly talking to, but also having their resource of information when you go to talk to others, that's how you can start making that connection piece.
Yeah, for sure. And then you're genuinely paying attention to the other person versus just listening for an in for a pitch. It's like, how can we support each other? How can we, help each other? And then you build that relationship, you build that trust. And then I trust your judgment of, hey, thank you. That would be an amazing opportunity. And I'll definitely check it out. And then human reciprocity is, I then want to help you, right? And it's not manipulation. It's just that's how we as humans work. And I think it's so powerful when we give out of the spirit of giving and just trying to help other people, it will come back and it will find you 100%.
Absolutely. And I also think it's another thing of understanding nuance. So I always think about, there's a newer to me client that I spoke with 5 times before I even made an invitation to her to work with me, because legitimately, first time I was connected with her, and it was just one of those really delightful, you should know this person. And so we got to know each other. And at the end of the call, I was like, I feel like we could talk forever and we have to both go. And she's like, I should have you on my podcast. I'm like, let me go on your podcast. So I went on her podcast. And then after the podcast, she mentioned something about a client. I'm like, why don't I give your client a call and take care of her? And then she had me come and guest expert in her group. And then we followed up after that to talk about how it was going. And then I asked her a question and she said something. And I went, hey, Tina, you do know this is what I do with my clients. This is how I help them. And she's like, yeah, I think I need to actually talk with you about that. And in that moment, I did not start conversation A looking to get a client.
Right.
I started it as a legitimate, I think we should be connected. Who are you? You're awesome, all those pieces. But I continued to follow the path line of maintaining the relationship, and it did turn in to a few opportunities along the way. And I like to say that because it's not, you don't have to squeeze the juice the moment you meet somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned an important thing too of maintaining the relationship. Like we hear so often the money's in the follow-up, right? And if you're just following up for the sake of following up, again, people sense that energy. Whereas if you're following up because it's a relationship and someone you care about, it's a heck of a lot easier. Just like, hey, I'm following up again. And people just get annoyed and it's like, oh, go away.
Oh, so I teach this thing and I call it a reason to reach out. I think what happens is no one's going to respond to I'm following up.
Right.
You don't like to do it. They don't want to hear it. But I like to have legitimate reasons to reach out to people. And when I have that, it feels good for me. And also, if I can't see, find, or create a reason to reach out, then I don't.
Right. Yep, exactly. It simplifies it all. And I'm curious on your perspective of, we'll say price point, but like high ticket versus low ticket items. What, I know this is like your jam, but what do you recommend for people? Should they go out and scrape up a ton of people out there or focus on something more?
Yeah. So, why I love relationship-based sales, I will give you 2 examples. When you have a legitimate relationship and you're having a conversation and you have the ability to sell high ticket, it is very easy It's enjoyable. You can talk with one person and make a $60,000 sale like I do. So I had this woman a couple of years back that I'd worked with, really successful, had a great experience. It was time for her to grow and she moved on. And I just had this little ping. You know, a lot of everyone gets the little pings, but they don't always follow them. And I was legitimately thinking about her. Like I saw something online that made me think of her and I sent her a little, hey, I love you. I hope you're doing well message, which it really was just that. And she messaged me back and she's like, holy crap, Laura, I can't believe you messaged me because I was about to come and tell you something. And I was like, oh, I knew she had found a mate and they had gotten married and I know they were trying. And I
Oh,
just had this feeling and she was having a baby and she was just telling me to say like sharing life experience. That was maintaining that relationship. And when I heard that from her, I'm like, we have to actually connect. How are you? And she's like, well, the truth is why I thought about you is not just to tell you this, but I need to figure out how to run my business while I have a kiddo. And I haven't done that before. And so I said, well, let's get on a call and let's just explore. And in that one conversation, that resulted in a $60,000 contract. So I got to tell you, that was a hell of a lot more enjoyable, easier, one conversation versus me trying to figure out a funnel and try to sell, a $47 or even $497 thing to 60 or 160 people. So I find that if you're going to do the work to talk to somebody, have a high ticket offer to sell to them because people will buy what they are able to see will transform them. And that's much different than being, again, transactional. High ticket is transformational. Relationship is transformational. Transactional is just, hey, buy and click my thing, and it can be very draining.
yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is the energy required between a low ticket and a high ticket sale?
Ooh, okay. I don't like to use winning and losing, but this is what I like to say. The highest energy wins. And what I mean by that is I am a legitimately happy clappy. Like you'll see me literally clapping and I bounce around and I shimmy a lot. That's my energy. That's not everyone else's high energy. High energy can actually be very quiet and very in that lead or guide. But what people really want is they want to believe and trust in the other person. When they believe, they will buy. So the highest energy wins means if you are able to convey that you know your shit backwards, forwards, and sideways, you are an expert and they can trust you, that'll actually make them trust themselves and that will cause them to buy. So prior to every sales call, I get myself in the right energy space. In fact, it's like a pre-step. I either ground myself down because I'm flying kind of high and I've had a day, or I power up my energy if I've been like traveling or if I'm tired, but I also am fully present to the other person on the line. Like today, I did a sales call that was, and whatever day you're listening to this, this will probably be true. It was 138 minutes long. Is that right?
Wow.
No, that's not right. It was 1 hour and 38 minutes.
Gotcha.
138 would be a big difference. Why am I saying this? There was a point right at the top of the hour where if I had had to go and stop, I could feel she was transitioning into the decision, I'm ready.
Mhm.
And I let her take a quick little break. She came back and we had a little like roundup conversation. Then she was giving me her card at the end of the call. If
Mhm.
I had cut it off and not followed the energy of the call, she wouldn't have bought. I wouldn't have gotten the chance to transform her. And her mission is amazing. Like I want to shout her from the rooftops. I want her to succeed. So I needed to sit in it, advocate for her, and be physically present.
Yeah, now I love that. And that reminds me of a conversation I had not that long ago with an existing client. And it was a newer service that I was, offering. And I'm like, hey, I want to share this thing with you. I think it might help you, blah, blah, blah. So I hop on and we were chatting about all sorts of things. And then, towards the end of the call, she's like, yeah, what was that thing you wanted to tell me about? And so I start telling her and I can feel it was the end of the day and like my blood
Mm.
sugar's crashing. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm sharing this thing with her. She's like, I feel like I'm getting sales, Julie, not Julie, Julie. I'm like, you're getting
Mm.
tired, Julie. That's what you're getting. I'm like, I'm not phoning it in, but it's, we've all been there
Mhm.
at the end of the day. It's like, oh my God, I just need to end the conversation. But you don't want to. And so, yeah, I could definitely speak to the planning ahead of time. I try to like grab a snack so I'm not fading and my clients are feeling that or something. So yeah, it's so true. And
Energy is everything. It also lets you not have to be on a script.
yeah.
Like you can be in that zone. And I have done this before, and I bet you have, where I've said, I'm going to mess this up right now. And what's
Mhm.
great is it gives me permission to be a real life human being because
Mhm.
that's who someone buys from. The perfect scripted, I love how she called her sales Julie, even though what it really was just tired Julie. But I did that. I think it was 2 Fridays ago. I never take calls on Friday. And I've said that many times, and I found myself on calls on Friday. And I had this delightful call with this woman. And I was like, I'm done. It's the end of my week. It's the end of my day. Can we talk again next week? And I scheduled the next call, but like that being human part, that relationship part, that is critical. And I love that you know how to like prep yourself for it, but also lean into it. If you're the real human, she'll buy from you.
Yeah. Well, that, and I should have said, you know what, let's table that conversation for next week. And I'm happy to share it with you. But right now I can feel myself thinking. Yeah. And actually to that point, what is your perspective on as you're in a sales conversation and you feel those objections starting? Like what is a good way to kind of overcome those?
I'm like the anomaly. I'm the only person out there who loves sales calls. I love
Right?
objections, all those things. But I'll tell you why I love them so you can be supported. So here's the number one thing. Resistance and objections are going to show up on calls. It's a fact. And I don't mean it as like, let's expect it. And I even say this to the effect of, I can't remember the last time I really had an objection to overcome or resistance, but it does show up. And so why I'm excited about it is I know it's going to happen. And because I know it's going to happen, and because I teach my clients about this, you're not thrown off when it shows up. When I had this lovely call with a person, and she gets to the end, she's like, Laura, I have no money. Like, I can't do this. The money objection. Here's all I heard was, I'm afraid to risk because what if it won't work? That's really the only objection. Will this work for me? I'm afraid to take the risk because as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we do crazy things. We risk the mortgage payment. We sell a boat and buy a coaching program. We go travel to some place that we need to go to just to be in the room with our ideal. We do the different thing, but we do it because we believe it will work. When someone gets on a sales call with you, whether you are selling web design, podcast services, coaching services, consulting, anything, their resistance and objection is just simply saying, I don't know if I can trust myself to do what must be done to get what I desire. I'm not sure if I can trust you, and that's okay. And if I can get someone to a place where when the resistance shows up, I simply say this, I become an advocate for them as opposed to like a competitor against them. Most sales, it's you against the person buying. Like you have to win, you need to get the sale, force them over. I simply become an advocate for their future self. And when their resistance shows up, I say, want to explore it together? Like today, you may or may not be able to see if you're watching this. There's a funny sun looking thing over in the corner. It's a thing that I teach on sales calls to help someone find the money. Like I'm not saying go, use your last credit card, do extraordinary things, but literally, how do I see where there's money around me? I have a tool to help them see that. If someone shows up and they're like, I need to think about it. Well, guess what? Some people actually, shocker alert, need to feel their feelings, absorb the data, and make a choice. So I let them do that, but I don't step away from the sales container. I simply give them a way to go do that. When you get on the team with them, when you're advocating for them, you're not an adversary, you're now an advocate, and you can guide them through resistance, you stand out from everyone else in the field. And the more important thing happens, which is this. I have so many amazing women, especially who show up on my doorsteps and they have Frankenstein their offers because someone got on a call and said, well, I don't like this. And they're like, oh no, there's something wrong. I need to change it. Or they stopped reaching out to this type of person because somebody said something. Objections and resistance, when you take them from a person who has not bought from you and you change your offer, you change your messaging or your audience, it won't work. But if you know resistance is really just them going through transformation, because safety is what we are all going for, and you can guide them through it as opposed to force them across the bridge, they will buy, they will trust you, and they will get results.
I love that. And that's so powerful. Um, and I know I like doing sales calls with people because I feel like the more information and I can, read them real time, the more I can take that into my next conversation and kind of roll that in. If everyone's asking about, well, do you have a guarantee? Well, sure. Then I tell them about that early. So it's not a later on objection. It's something that I can, preface up front. And it's like, oh, okay, one last question off my mind.
Mhm.
What are those things that you would encourage people to make sure that they don't forget, or what are gaps that you see that most people have?
Yep. So thing number one is you need a formula to follow on sales calls. So many, many moons ago, I did this crazy thing where I got rid of all my clients. I moved my family to a different state. I like increased our expense. I did all the crazy things you shouldn't do. But the one thing I did was I gave myself a 100 call challenge. Now, I will tell you, I don't expect anyone to do 100 calls in a month. I just did it as a really fun little gag for myself because that's enjoyable. But here's what happened. I talked to 37 people and they were brand new to me. I had no list. This was not an email campaign. This is legitimate relationship development. 13 of the 37 said yes to buying from me. And I was able to bank like 10K at the time and I booked out like 136,000. And that was great. The rest of the story is what was even better with all the follow-up that I did and everything else. But the reason why I knew it would work was one reason. On every single sales call, I followed my 5 steps to yes. And what happens when you have a guaranteed formula, you know what your results can be. So the other person can do whatever they're doing. My energy can be off and I can manage it and I can do all the things. But if I follow my formula, what happens is I know that I'm going through the process. Because have you ever had this where you get on a call and probably not you, Julie, but somebody else who's listening? You get on a call and you're all high vibe and you're happy and you say things and at the end they buy. And then you have a call where you get on a call with somebody and you say things and they don't buy, but you don't know why or why not. When you have a formula to follow, and my 5 steps to yes is so freaking simple that like I can guide someone to connection. I can listen and learn to their problems. I can insert a client success story. I can talk about their vision. I can lead with another client success story. I can give them the invitation. I can close. I know without a shadow of a doubt, if I talk to 10 people and I use my formula, I will walk away with 1 to 10 clients, depends on where I am. But I think what happens is most people don't have a thing to follow. And what they're trying to do is be reactive and responsive, and then they forget things.
Mhm.
And when you have a formula, you are the script. Like my biggest thing is I teach not to use a sales script because people feel disconnected from it. But a formula, you can lean in. I can spend like 45 minutes in connection with somebody and then give an invitation in 2 minutes and that's going to work. I can also spend 2 minutes in connection and 40 minutes in the conversation around the offers, whatever the person needs. But the formula lets me relax into the process.
I love that. So for people listening and they're like, okay, I need your formula, where can they find you and how can you help them with this?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, number one, go grab my free gift. It's an Overcoming Objections PDF. The URL is www. Laura Wright, WRIGHT, official, OFFICIAL.com/gift. I think it'll also be in the show notes. And in that Overcoming Objections, I also detail my 5 steps to yes. That way you know what to say, because here's the thing. A lot of my clients think that I might be psychic. Really, here's what's happening. I follow a formula that guides them through a path and I listen to the words that they say. And so when I'm feeding back my offers to them, it's incorporating the words that they said. So quite frequently, objections don't show up. Julie, I love how you said it. You're like, if I hear everybody needs a guarantee, I'm going to slide it in earlier so they don't get to the end and they're like, where's my guarantee?
Right.
Same. So go ahead, grab my Overcoming Objections. Also, I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. Always look for Epic at Sales. I'm also one of those real life human beings where if you message me, I will reply to you. Actually
Imagine that.
me, and I will engage. So I am a big fan of actual connection and actual questions.
I love that. I love that. And thank you. Absolutely. We'll have all the links down in the show notes. And I know you've accomplished amazing things, both with your business, with your family, with your clients, but how do you define success? What does that look like for you?
Okay, so this is a really cool thing because my husband and I were literally doing this the other day. We were standing in our kitchen looking outside, and we could hear our neighbor next door and their daughter like laughing outside. The window was open a little bit. There was a breeze blowing in. It was sunny. Our kid was upstairs in his playroom. Like, just there was delicious food on the stove. And this was like a moment of happiness and perfection and being at choice. And we've had this conversation before because we live in a fairly modest home. We're in a row home. It's 5 bedroom. It's gorgeous. It's what I want. Should we have like the 6,000 square foot, the circular driveway and all the car? No, that's not going to give me my experience I want.
Mhm.
What I define success as is taking an extra moment in the kitchen with my husband and being able to really enjoy it. So being at choice is how I define success, not just the dollars in my bank account.
100%. And I think those are the memories that you take with you, right? Like that's what you carry forward instead of all the stuff that we think we need to have. But it gives you that life together and the relationship ultimately with your husband and with your family that you want, right?
That's it.
Yeah. And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Ask for more. Like, when you think that your program should be sold for 1,000, I guarantee there's somebody out there selling it for 10,000. If you want to earn 100,000, I got to break it to you. 100,000 is not even a business anymore. Go for the million. I think the number one thing that holds especially women back is the worry that they either can't fulfill, can't deliver, it was too heavy or too big. What burns people out in entrepreneurship is not hard work. It's when you're going towards something that doesn't actually light your soul on fire. So pick that big dream that you don't understand and go for it. Make the offer that is the $50,000, 60, 100, $1 million offer. Go for more than you desire. That will buoy you forward.
Yeah. And if you don't envision it and, set your sights on whatever that goal is, you're certainly never going to accomplish it. Right.
That's the truth. That was like a mic drop moment.
Exactly. And with that, thank you, Laura, for being on today. This was awesome.
Thank you, Julie. I love doing this. I'm grateful to you and to the audience and everyone listening. And I can't wait for our next conversation.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I will see you on the next episode.